What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into TTP Sports, and that is back-to-back losses for the Philadelphia Flyers in basically, I guess you can say, the start of this gauntlet that is going to be the next 10 of 11 games. They've already played 2 of those games, and in the first game, they got absolutely destroyed by the Toronto Maple Leafs, a team that they are going to be seeing again in this gauntlet in a couple of days here on this very upcoming Tuesday. So, yeah, a little bit of a not that long of a stretch there. And then they go into Boston tonight, TD Garden, and for the most part, I thought they played a good game for most of the game, but then everything fell apart. Everything fell apart. Start of the third period, you come out 2-2. You're thinking to yourself, win a period, you win a game. That's exactly the opposite of what happened. Because a span of 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and suddenly, bing, bang, boom, it's 5-2 out of nowhere. Defensive zone collapse, miscommunication, guy walking right into the zone uncontested. Your guys are just staring at them, having no idea who to cover. Allowed to walk right in and just go top shelf on Sandstrom. And yeah, I'll get to Sandstrom in a little bit. I will. Because later on in the game, he allowed a goal. It's not pretty. And honestly, the Charlie Coyle goal probably shouldn't have gone in either. It's kind of a little bit too easy there. Yeah, there was a defensive breakdown, but I think, short side, top shelf, that close should not be able to go in my honest opinion. So, a lot of bad tonight. After, like I said, the Flyers get on the board early. After David Pastrnak, out of all people, somehow misses the net against the Philadelphia Flyers. I've never seen that in my life. I feel like every time I see David Pastrnak play against the Philadelphia Flyers, he scores 52,978 goals a game against us. That's how many times it feels like he hits the net. And the rare occurrence when he misses, and I'm like, whoa, Pasta's human. He's actually human. He can miss the fucking net. And on that ensuing missed net, Pastrnak turns it over. Flyers 2-on-1 the other way. Half away, a nice dish over to Poehling. Buries the one-timer. Flyers get on the board early. 1-0 lead. And you're thinking to yourself, nice. You got to get off early. Tough game in Boston, bouncing back from a very tough loss against Toronto. Torts is back on the bench after his suspension. Let's keep it going, boys. Let's try to find a way to get the 2 points here. And then Travis Konechny gets a breakaway. Doesn't score. And then Boston goes back down the other way, and Morgan Geekie just clap bombs it past Sandstrom. After, once again, miscommunication in the defensive zone. So that's the first of the defensive miscommunications. That was just, complete back and forth play. Konechny misses on the breakaway, and Konechny, in my honest opinion, had a terrible game. Travis Konechny was one of the guys that stood out to me in a very bad way, and I mean a very bad way. He was on the ice for a lot of the goals tonight. Seriously, if he buries that breakaway that he gets, or even the rebound that he got on the breakaway, it's 2-0, and many things can happen after that. But then you miss on the breakaway, bing, bang, boom, Boston scores and ties the game. It's a bad look there for TK. Just is. And then it really just didn't get much better for him as the game went along. It just didn't. So, period ends 1-1, which honestly probably should have been 2-0 if TK scored in the breakaway, but it is what it is at that point. So you go into the intermission tied. Come out of the intermission as my cat hops onto the desk. I have, cat duty tonight, so yeah, you're going to be seeing a lot of cats tonight. Possibly on the stream. There's already one currently that's in the window behind me, and now the kitten is now in there with her. So we'll see how much these cats over here probably mess with each other. They'll probably hear some fighting. But away from the cats here. The second period, just crazy things happening as the game goes along. Boston definitely looked like they were getting their legs back as the game progressed, and the Flyers were a little more on their heels. And going to the second period, you actually get a power play. This is a little over halfway through. You're getting good looks on the power play. I thought you even had some good looks on the power play in the first period as well. Morgan Frost with a shot that rings right off the post. Travis Konechny had a chance at a wide open net, and the puck just bounced away from his stick, and he whiffed on the one-time shot as he was winding up to clap the puck into the wide open cage. So nothing happens there. Power play wise, though, in the second period, you're getting chances, and as the power play dwindles down, you got Cam York on the top of the zone by the blue line, throws the puck onto the net, and you got a double screen with a deflection by Joel Farabee. Flyers take the lead 2-1. You love to see that right there. Flyers go up 2-1. But then, not so later on, Flyers take a penalty. I believe it was Tyson Forrester that took this penalty in the offensive zone, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, this was a Tyson Forrester penalty in the offensive zone. Definitely not a penalty that you would want to take. And then basically on this ensuing penalty kill, Boston wins a faceoff. Marchand wide open, and then he manages to give it down to Charlie Coyle, who's just wide open with a net by himself, and these guys are just wide open. Flyers completely missed their assignment, and if you look on the replay, Konechny looked like he tripped Mark Stahl in that play, so he completely took his defender out of the situation. So, once again, not a good look for Travis Konechny in that situation, as the game just continues to progress. And that's how the second period ends. It ends in a 2-2 tie. Then we go to the third period, and that's where everything just doesn't make sense. This is where all the chaos ensues. So, there was a scrum, end the second period off. I believe it was between York, Sanheim, and, a couple of the Boston defenders as well. I believe it was McAvoy or something like that. So, start of the third period, York and the Boston player, they're in the penalty box, I believe, for both roughing, and it's a 4-on-4, 4-on-4 ice time to start the third period. Flyers obviously struggle 4-on-4. They tend to try to put their defenders out there 4-on-4, defensive pairings basically. Defensive, forward pairings, defensive pairings, blah, 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 you know what I mean. And once again, even though Travis Konechny was out there, so really is it a defensive pairing on the forwards for that predicament? Probably not. But Flyers in the zone for a very long time, their zone for a long time. Guys can't get off the ice, and Boston's just able to make line changes during out this entire thing. And Pastrnak keeps it in the zone for a little bit, and basically, like I said, as Boston on this ensuing change, they get Flyers caught in a trap basically on miscommunication. Here comes Charlie Coyle right off the bench, and Konechny, puck watching basically, does not go after Coyle because he's on a very long shift, and Coyle just manages to walk right into the short side of Sandstrom, and he puts a top shelf short side on him, gives Boston a 3-2 lead. And that's the first goal that Sandstrom should not have allowed. But then basically it just completely implodes from there. Beecher scores, DeBrusk scores off so many breakdowns defensively, it's not even funny. One of them was a backdoor tap in. One of them, Jake DeBrusk just got Sandstrom to go down, and he just manages to hold the puck and just put it right, behind his leg and drag it into the net basically. And all of a sudden, in that 4-minute span of the third period, it's 5-2. Torts calls a timeout, does not say anything. Basically, just it's one of those situations where you guys know what you did wrong. I don't have to say shit. I'm just calling this timeout to give us a breather. Reset, regroup. You guys know what you did wrong. I don't have to say shit. And that's exactly what Torch should have done in that situation. And maybe it did something. Maybe it did. Because out of nowhere, this is a little over, the Flyers start to get their legs a little bit over halfway into this period, more into the final 6 minutes of the period. Flyers fourth line basically is out there because he did switch Couturier and Scott Lawton in the middle of this game. Lawton was on the bottom line and Couturier was on the top line. Then he switched those guys too throughout the game. So Coots was on the bottom line at this point with Delorier, and I forget who else it was, but it was Couturier and Delorier at the time in the offensive zone. Coots wins a puck battle down low. Delorier manages to get the puck. Swayman, the goaltender at the time for Boston, had no idea where the puck is, had a wide open net right there where Deloria was, and he manages to bury it home. So the Flyers get back onto the board. It's 5-3, the 2-goal game, and I guess at this point you're still alive. Anything can happen. There's 6 minutes left in the period. Maybe this goal can get our legs back, and we'll see what can happen. Not that long after, Flyers had an offensive zone draw. Puck goes out of the zone, and maybe this was the best thing that could have ever happened because Owen Tippett drives the offensive zone, gets a nice dish off, going forward in the zone to Morgan Frost, who gets behind the defenders. I have no idea how to describe this goal because Morgan Frost drives into Swayman, goes between, he already realizes he has no room to shoot forehand or even backhand. The dude goes in between his legs. In between his legs, top shelf. Where the fuck did he pull that out of his bag? 5-4 Boston. Okay, you're thinking to yourself, okay, we're confident here. Okay, we're back into the game. I see that goal live on the television. My jaw dropped. My jaw fucking dropped. I'm like, are you serious? Are you fucking serious? Morgan Frost, where the fuck did you pull that out of your bag? And it's funny too because there's been so much on Flyers social the past couple of days, the discourse of Morgan Frost, because if for people that don't know and for people that really don't follow the Flyers, on Flyers Twitter there's this heavy discourse of people that hate Morgan Frost and think he's nothing special, and the people that heavily defend Morgan Frost. And there's really no in between. It's either his heavy defenders or his heavy haters. And those guys have been going completely ballistic the past couple of days because you get the haters out there that, he doesn't live up to the height of where he was drafted at in that late first round. He only has 30-something points on the season. He doesn't record any points against good teams. He only destroys bad teams, blah, 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 blah. He does stupid mistakes and all that stuff. And then basically, the defenders, they try to defend him. Where I stand on Morgan Frost, I'm in the middle. I don't hate him. I don't love the guy. I think he's a very solid middle six forward on a contending team. He obviously possesses a lot of skill, and I feel like he's one of the more skilled forwards on this Flyers team, and I think that kind of tells you how little skill this team does have at the end of the day. But, he has some creativity. He does really stand out on the power play, which is very important for this team. But it's just for the fact that, the constant discourse, it kind of does get annoying, just seeing that back and forth. Like I said, I have no bearing on Morgan Frost. I'm more in the middle. Like I said, he does things that I don't like. He does things that I do like. I think he's very creative, and I just don't want him gone. That's, I think he does have a place on this Flyers team. So that's where I stand. And he has been more noticeable basically ever since Torts benched him at one point in January, I believe it was, and then Morgan Frost went into Torts' office. They had a little bit of a back and forth going on there. Torts loved it, and it kind of felt like Morgan Frost has been a better player since. He's been a lot more noticeable of a player ever since, and it's definitely been a better version of Morgan Frost, and I do want to see where this goes in the direction of the future, because I still don't know what Danny Briere, this front office, sees in Morgan Frost. There's just a lot of things going on here that we still have to focus on for the future. And is Morgan Frost a part of it? I have no idea, but he definitely had a very good showcasing today. And maybe today he can kind of put he doesn't score against good teams to rest, because there's kind of other players on this Flyers team that are even more as inconsistent as Frost is. As much as I love Owen Tippett, I could describe him the same way as describe Morgan Frost. Owen Tippett does things that I love, and he does a lot of things that I don't like. I don't think Owen Tippett's a bad player. I think Owen Tippett's a good player, even though there's a lot of people that shit on Owen Tippett. That's, the discourse of Flyers Twitter. I think both Frost and Owen Tippett have their places on contending teams. I believe both of those guys can be good middle six forwards on contending teams. Now, granted, Owen Tippett just got a bigger pay raise, and he's on this team for 8+ years, so he's definitely going to be a top six forward on this team for the foreseeable future. Where does that stand for Morgan Frost? We'll just have to wait and see. But, even, I'm not sure if people are going to agree with me with this, but, Travis Konechny does a lot of things that I love, does a lot of things that I hate. And I don't know where the direction of this team goes with him in the future, because, yeah, he's almost near 30. I believe, how old is Travis Konechny at this point? I believe he's 27, 28, possibly at this point. I believe he's almost in his late 20s. Yeah, he's 27 years old at this point, basically right at the start of his prime. His contract, I believe, ends after next season, if I'm not mistaken, so he's definitely going to be due a pay raise. I'm skeptical about giving him a very huge extension. I do have that in the back of my mind. I don't think he's a $9 million a year player. That's another talk for another time. I don't know why I'm getting into this, but this is just the stuff that I'm thinking in the back of my mind right now. It really just is. But Yeah, Morgan Frost makes it 5-4. Flyers, they try to push more in the offensive zone. They're generating a lot of pressure, and just a little bit of a mistake between York and Sanheim. They don't get the puck deep, and then a shot from Sanheim gets blocked, and then the puck goes completely the other way, and it's a 2-on-1 basically for Boston. And Dayton Heinen just wires a puck past Sandstrom, top shelf, bar down basically, and that's a goal Sandstrom needs to have. I know you could say, oh, just respect the shooter shot and all that stuff. It was a great, yes, it was a great shot. Your goaltender at that point in the game, especially when they made it a 1-goal game, your goalie needs to have that, because what happened not that long after? Joel Farabee manages to tuck it in after the Flyers get more zone pressure, and they make it a 6-5 game. Because, so, now when you look at the loss, the bigger thing that comes to play is that goal allowed by Sandstrom. Because you negated the collapse of the 5-2 Boston lead. You made it 5-4, and now your goaltender just took it away from you, basically, because if Sandstrom makes that save, this game's probably going to overtime, and you're getting a point out of this. And now you're talking about you lose a game in regulation after you score 5 goals, and you don't get a single point. It's been happening to this team a lot lately. Definitely has been. And, yeah, Torts said it at the press conference. They lack depth right now. Obviously, they're missing 3 defensemen. And also, I guess you could count a 4th defenseman, because they did trade away Sean Walker, even though I would do the Sean Walker trade 9 times, well, I would say 10 times out of 10. Get that first round pick in return for Sean Walker, I'd definitely sell that at that value. But you're missing Nick Seeler, who is a big presence in that locker room. He leads the league in block shots, and he's a very stable force on that blue line for this Flyers team, especially on the penalty kill, because the penalty kill is definitely taking a dip lately. They've been allowing a lot more goals on the penalty kill. And when you're forced to play Mark Stoll in more minutes, Eric Johnson in more minutes, you're going to get exposed a little bit, because realistically, those guys are 6th, 7th defensemen at best at this point in their career. Those guys playing that many minutes, you are going to get exposed. And Zamula, Adard, those guys are doing their best out there. They're still more bottom 6 defensemen than not. And then, Cam York, I believe Cam York has the most upside out of this entire, young Flyers blue line so far. And I believe Cam York does show a lot of great flashes. I think there's a lot of things that people don't pay attention to with Cam York's game that are really good. Plays a great two-way game, and I do believe he has a lot of tools in his game that's going to be really good for this Flyers team for the foreseeable future. But, when you don't have a Cam York to start the 3rd period because he was in the penalty box, that hurts your defense, because now it's Travis Sanheim and basically nobody else. You're missing Sealer, obviously. You're missing what Jamie Drysdale brings to the mix in terms of offensive creativity. And we can't deny missing Rasmus Ristolainen and the presence that he could bring. Guy that can clear the front of the net, just be a physical force down there. And he has become a solid defenseman for you with this coaching staff. So let's not downplay missing Rasmus Ristolainen. You're missing a lot of defensemen. You are. And we can't downplay that. We just can't. Because defensively, the structure, it's just not the same right now. And when you're playing guys at minutes to where they shouldn't be, specifically guys like Mark Stahl and Eric Johnson, you're going to get exposed more times than not. I know I keep saying that, but that's the truth. And you end up losing this game when you fail at a chance to get at least a point out of this. Because when you look at the standings, you got 14 games left in the season. Teams behind you, Capitals, Islanders, those teams still have a bunch of games left behind you, and those guys are creeping back up to you, man. They are. The Islanders have been losing a lot more in the past few games, but they did get a point today against the Ottawa Senators, so they're 3 points behind you now. So it's getting closer and closer and closer. And the schedule is not going to get any easier. But if we look at the standings right now, yeah, the Islanders, looking at the division, they're 3 points behind you with 2 games in hand. That's not good. That's not good. And yes, like I said, they have been losing a lot more as of late. And they do play tomorrow afternoon against the Rangers, so that's definitely going to be a tougher game for them. And they do play a lot more tougher teams in the next few weeks, so we'll see how it goes. The Capitals, they're 5 points behind you with 3 games in hand. The Devils, I guess you can really count those guys out because they're 8 points behind you at 1 game in hand. And then the Penguins, they're basically done. So it's really just the Islanders and the Capitals. And then also, if you're worried about the wild card, The Red Wings, they finally snapped their losing streak, and Tampa, they're going on a hot streak right now. So, yeah, you got to get your points. And right now, this team is struggling to get points, especially, to an extent when you're missing 3 defensemen. That definitely is a big stay there. We can't forget that. And if we look at the rest of the schedule, so you got Toronto Tuesday, Carolina next Thursday, Boston again next Saturday at home, Florida on the 24th at home, then the Rangers on the 26th at Madison Square Garden, and then the Gauntlet Neds from there. So the next 5 games, the next 5 games here, man, brutal, 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 brutal. And then March ends with Montreal and Chicago. It's hard stuff, but you got to find a way to get it done. No ifs, ands, or busts if you want to make the playoffs. No excuses. Got to find a way, man. Got to find a way to pull through. So, it sucks. That type of comeback to be ruined like that. It does. It does. But, we'll see where they bounce back. Maybe with the Carnival tomorrow at the Wells Fargo Center, maybe they'll, that'll put them in better spirits. I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. But, that'll do it for tonight, everybody. Thank you for tuning in as always. Don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Don't forget to drop a like. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It does me a great deal of service. Also, don't forget to use the code TTPSPORTS, $20 off your first purchase at SEATGEEK. Great deal. Don't pass it up. Thanks, guys, for joining tonight. I'll see you next time.